Hello. So look how manky this dog looks. So this next one is looking at features of different religious typologies. Now, the most common way that you'd get asked about just the typologies bit is a 10 marker. So it might say 2 differences between a sect and a cult, 2 features of a denomination, 1 difference and 1 similarity between a church and a sect, etc., etc. So first of all, you need to be confident on the features of each, really 4 or 5 features of each, and 2 or 3 examples of each. So if you want to stop now and go off and test yourself on that, please do. But I'll just continue now and talk through the typical features of each of those organisations. So it's probably best to start with a church. Now remember, sociologically, church doesn't mean a Christian church. It means a big mainstream religious organisation. So the key features of a church would be a large open membership, a belief in only one truth, one God. I should have thought this through before I did this. A place of meeting, a communal meeting, a book, a guidebook, a Bible, a Quran, a Torah, and other features. World accommodating. They may not love the society they love in and live in, but they're certainly not trying to overthrow it. Commitment levels tend to be low to medium, although clearly some people are very, very committed to their mainstream organisation. Typically, think of the world's big 6 religions. So they'd be your examples of a church. However, one of them has not got a higher power or deity, and that is Buddhism. And so that's kind of left a bit out in the cold. It doesn't really fit any of the typologies. And there's one of the first problems with the whole idea of a typology. What are you doing? Let's go to a sect. Now, a sect is a breakaway group, a kind of rebellion group from a church, and it probably starts off very small and is most likely to end up a denomination once it's cooled down, which we'll talk about later. So features of a sect are very different. They are world rejecting, according to Wallace's new religious typologies. They're world rejecting, i.e. they don't form part of mainstream society. They typically live outside it and certainly don't follow its mainstream values. So they live communally. Rather than, I should have said this for church. I knew I'd start doing this. A church has a formal, structured hierarchy. That was an important one. Like the Pope in Catholicism is clearly at the top. Then the cardinals, the bishops, etc. Whereas a sect tends to have just one charismatic leader. And the commitment to this group is total, absolute. Often includes a vow of poverty. So think of Jim Jones in the People's Temple, where he asked his members ultimately to sell their property and give all their money to him to set up their communal way of life. That charismatic leader probably has total control of the followers sexually, emotionally, financially, etc. They absolutely believe in one truth, and that is the truth as given to them by the leader, who has by now probably given himself the title of the Messiah or the voice piece of God, etc. And of course, that gives them great power because everything they say then is seen to be absolutely right. So I said they live communally, small, exclusive membership, very small, very exclusive. They'd be very nervous of any incomers as wanting to threaten the group. Okay, so that's sects. I know I've missed some things out there. Commitment, total, small, exclusive membership, one person forming the hierarchy, the charismatic leader, I believe in one God. All right, let me move on. A denomination is often the result of a sect once it's cooled down and become more mainstream. So sects tend to ultimately die out or become a denomination, although some, such as the Amish, have continued to exist. So a denomination really has many features in common with a church. So examples might be Methodists, Baptists, the Quakers, who are all ultimately slightly different versions of mainstream Christianity. They also have large open membership. They're slightly more tolerant of other truths than churches. They may not be so committed to the idea there's only one truth. The hierarchy is less structured and formal. So, for example, if you go to a Quaker meeting, you may find yourself just sitting around a table in a Quaker meeting house, waiting for people to say something exciting and meaningful. There may be no obvious hierarchy at all. Other things, they also have a shared book that they work from, often the Bible for Christian denominations. And then lastly is the cult. And this is a very different setup. Now, probably you have initially thought of a cult as a sect, like a scary, world-rejecting, crazy institution. Actually, a cult is world-affirming, according to Wallace and his new religious movements definitions, typologies. So world-affirming means it embraces the attitudes within society. So, for example, let's give some examples. So things like transcendental meditation would say, it's great, you've got a fantastic career. If you meditate and practice this, your career and your relationships could get even better. It's not trying to override the values of mainstream society. Organisationally, it's very much like a business. There's branches rather than a place of worship. So for yoga, you probably just pay for lessons, for example. For transcendental meditation, you may practice it at home or on the internet. So very different setup. Commitment tends to be quite transient. So another example is something like Reiki or hands-on healing. People probably use it when they've got migraines, stress, bad back. They probably dip in and out of this sort of organisation rather than being deeply committed to it long term. Typically, you've got to pay as well for the service, like for a crystal healing session. And so it tends to be quite a middle class activity. I'm hoping I've covered most things there. I will watch this back and eradicate it if it's useless. But there's a rundown of typologies. Okay, bye.